What's up, everyone, and welcome to episode 209 of the Bench Time Podcast with Todd and Brett Wiley. This week, we got another guest, and this one I'm excited for this one because you're in our backyard. So I want to welcome Matt Probst to our show. Long-time listener, but I'm glad you're finally on our show.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me, guys. Appreciate it. It's an honor.
Yeah.
To be with the Wiley duo.
Yeah, well, it's been too long. I mean, we're like practically neighbors in this world, and we got to get to talking to you. So, real quick before we go into it, before we get too deep into it, and I don't want to jump the gun on it, but you recently started a YouTube channel, and what's it been, about a month?
Yeah, about that. Yeah, we're pretty close coming up on it.
Yeah, and in a month, you got almost 500 subscribers, which is pretty awesome. So, kudos to you on that. That's a fun little like side quest for us. Once you start sharing your work, it's like it's a fun little like way to share it in a different way than just posting photos.
Oh, yeah. Are we there?
You there, Matt?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's all good. I was just saying it's different than, snapping some pictures of your work and then posting them, because you got to actually like think about what you're getting ready, what you're going to show, how you're going to show it. And then I don't know how much editing you do, but you got to sit down and edit it and get it ready to publish. So, kudos to you for kicking off your YouTube channel.
Yeah, it's called It's called My HO Scale World of Model Railroad. So check that out. And
And the reason I started it, I wasn't like trying to turn this into a money making adventure or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
But for the most part, man, I've been on like Facebook groups, not just your guys, but a whole bunch of other ones, and a lot of them several of them, maybe 5 or 6 that have a lot of newer folks into the hobby.
Yeah.
And man, they have so many questions, and like they get wrong answers, just like how to do things and making scenery and stuff, whatever. They get all kinds of off the wall advice and stuff. And then I will try to go in there, and then I end up typing like 6 paragraphs, trying to explain, and it's like, this is ridiculous. I could just show somebody how to do it.
Yep.
Yeah,
we were there at the beginning of ours.
Well, and what's really cool about that, Matt, is, and you'll find that out. Like, you type on Facebook, and this is just like my world of what I do. Facebook is like an echo chamber in a way where they go there to ask questions, right? But like if you Google search it, it's not going to show up on Facebook. So if you're creating and answering questions on YouTube, eventually you'll start getting people, and you probably already have found them, where they're actually not finding your answers on Facebook. They're finding it because they're Google searching or YouTube searching how to do blank. And
right, and then a list of videos comes up that are on that topic.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, so it's like a whole nother world of people that you're not even touching through Facebook. You're getting them through them asking a question on YouTube. And we've all done it. We've all YouTube, whether we're doing it for model building or we're doing it for a project around our house on how to do something. And now you're answering questions about it. So that's a whole new world there.
Yeah, that's cool. And I didn't want to gear it completely just toward newbies in the hobby.
Yeah.
But because there could be a guy that, has been ballasting track a certain way for 25 years, and then he would see my video of how I do it, which might be a little different than his. And he might say, boy, that looks easier, or he gets a little better result than I'm getting. Let me check this out, So
that's the idea.
I mean, I learned that stuff like that from other people as well. So why not?
Yeah. I mean, that's how we took the approach right from the beginning when we started doing videos and the podcast, for example. And yeah, we sometimes give our techniques and stuff, and we like doing that, but it did focus mainly on the beginners, and but we had lots of experienced modelers that jumped in, and they say, hey, they're learning something too. I have many times going to other people that are, that I already knew how to do something, but by watching somebody else, no matter how good or new you are, you're gonna learn. Just seeing different techniques. So that's great that you base it that way.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do in my head. Every time I try to sit down or start to record something, I'm trying to think of who the audience is, or who, it could be some guy that's been around for 25, 30 years in the hobby, and at the same time somebody that started last year.
Yep.
And I just try to make it so that everybody knows what the hell I'm talking about. But I don't know how successful I am sometimes.
Well, I thought your videos are very concise and well done, and you're showing every detail that you use to get the effect that you want, and that's the whole idea of it, right? And
thanks.
That's awesome. And like I said, you're putting out a new one like every week or two, or every couple of days.
I don't know. Usually like a couple of weeks, it seems, at this point.
Yeah.
Because I finish a project and I want to start another one. I'm like, well, I might as well just video it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, oh my gosh, my dog's going nuts again. Yeah. Anyhow.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, I try to answer every single comment.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've subscribed to a lot of different channels too, and I ask a question and I never hear back.
Yeah.
I might hear back 3 months later. Well, I already figured it out by then. So I definitely, like every morning I grab a cup of coffee, I'll go in there and scroll and see if there's any new comments popped up, any questions I can answer quick.
Well, you're at 500. You're at 500 subscribers, which is an awesome jumpstart, right?
Pretty close, yeah.
As you grow, you're gonna start getting more and more comments and questions, and to the point where
I'll be overwhelmed.
And you'll miss some, and then you'll go, "Oh man, it's just gonna happen." It's just gonna happen.
I'll definitely, I have made that disclaimer. Look, if I didn't respond to you, it's not because I didn't want to. It's just that I plainly did not see it, and I'm very sorry. Please ask it again.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, people understand, cool. But sure. Yeah. So I mean, your YouTube channel, that's an awesome kickoff there. I love seeing the new channels pop up, and then like you kind of said, there's a bunch of people that have done everything a million ways. So it's just cool to show. Even though there's a million techniques to, I saw your one video there. Let's make some rocks from the other day, like.
Right.
There's a million people making rocks, and they pretty much use the same way.
Different ways.
But even though the base techniques are the same, everyone's got their own little thing they do. So it's always cool to see, every chef has their own way of cooking. So it's cool to see.
Exactly. Yeah.
Cool to see how that is. But so yeah, let's. What's that, Dad?
No, I was going to ask. I mean, he also shares a lot of content on of his own work and his layout and his scenery work, which I think is phenomenal. By the way, you do a very good job on your scenery. And we share a lot of that on a lot of different groups, and it's always a pleasure to see your work. At some point, Brett and I are going to have to come and see your layout, obviously.
Yeah, man. Yeah, anytime, man. Because I took early retirement, so I'm home like way more than I ever was. So I mean, I'm around.
Yeah.
So when did you get started? What was the start of Matt and mile railroading?
Well, it started influencing from my father. First of all, and I gained some of his skills, and he taught me a lot of stuff over the years, but nothing really to do with model railroading, but attention to detail and so forth and so on. But he started in circus modeling before I was born.
Ooh.
So he scratch build wagons and sew tents, big top tents, and he could set it up in his yard.
Oh, wow.
I love that stuff.
He'd have the wagons, and he'd take the block of wood and carve it into a gorilla or an elephant.
Oh, wow.
And then some stuff he bought, of course. But he was big into that. Him and his cousin's husband were huge into that before I was born. And kids come along, so I was born, sister was born, and he had other hobbies and other interests, and he was doing stuff. Yeah. But maybe when I was about, I don't know, 3, he thought it'd be cool. Maybe he would try to get into model railroading as a hobby. He loved hobbies. I mean, he was a hobby man. So he tried to. So for a 3-year-old, he wanted to do it for me. So he built a whole bunch of buildings out of pretty much balsa wood and painted them, scratch built everything.
Right.
But they weren't really exactly to scale. Some go, oh, that was like S scale instead of HO. Yeah, it probably was.
Right.
But then he put up a 4x8 sheet of plywood and did some rudimentary scenery, and it was fun for the kid. And then he thought he would try to get into the hobby. And he knew other people that were in the hobby way more than he was. But the work and kids, and it just kind of faded away. And he had other interests.
Yeah.
But that always stuck with me. In fact, there's a picture of a photo album somewhere I have yet to find over my parents' house of me sitting on the floor looking at what he made on this railroad.
And that's where the itch usually comes from. It's from our
pops.
That's
where it came from. And and I grew up, and I got into like middle school, and I came across what's the name of that? The Great Book of Model Railroading, I think is the name. It's John Allen's book.
Yeah, John Allen's book, sure.
The big coffee table book.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So I can remember going to the library and borrowing that book, and then going back in every week for like a year and renewing it. So I poured.
Book. You're the one that dog-eared that one, right?
Yeah, I poured through that book. I must have read it 100 times, looked at every picture, details, everything. It just struck me, and I was like, I want to do that someday.
Right.
And he's that railroad was set in like the Colorado Rockies.
Oh yeah,
and
Florida
and that kind of stuff. I knew I didn't want to do the Rockies, but that's just but then as time goes on, then I had subscription to Model Railroader and Railroad Model Craftsman, and I got to know all the big layouts in like Alan McClellan's Virginia and Ohio, and of course the Franklin South Manchester, and Ferrari's work. All those guys.
Right.
John Olson, even the older guy. And,
yeah.
I had years and years and years of subscriptions to that stuff, but I never had really the room to build much.
Right.
And then when I of course, get out of the house when you're 19 years old and you go rent a house with a couple guys, and it's girls and cars, So, and that, and then I got, it's another kind of different story, but I got into the hospitality industry after high school, or I took a couple years of college. Then went into that, and I ended up being general manager of hotels and restaurants and stuff.
Cool.
For 30 years. But in the course of that, I got married, had a kid, and I had to move so often. I moved 8 times in 5 years.
Oh, wow.
Oh, my goodness.
And like everything was just constantly in boxes. And but I always had my subscriptions to those magazines. So I was your definition of an armchair modeler for quite a long time.
Right.
I had my girlfriend prior before I got married. We had an apartment. I had a little spare bedroom, and I did like a 5x9 layout that I actually completed. Even with lighting and everything else in it, but it wasn't near to the good quality that I can do now.
Sure.
But it always just stayed with me, man. That's what's above
that's awesome.
I guess.
So now it stayed with you, and then when you started to get into the craftsman kits and such with the building like that, when did that all kick in? Where you said, okay, you know what, I'm taking this from my 5x9 to I'm going to learn this and become, because obviously, you've taken a giant leap from when you first started. So when did that all kick in when you got into the very fine detail and the craftsman work of it?
Well, this goes back to the story of a spider, a real spider.
Okay.
One that crawls around. So I had gotten divorced, and in order to save money to buy a house at some point, I rented a 1-bedroom apartment across from Brentwood. Used to work on the Carlisle Pike there, by the Sierra Madre.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
And so I had rented this apartment. But anyhow, I was still working in a restaurant as a general manager. And at some point, not in the restaurant, but out in the woods somewhere, I got bit by a spider. Turned into a brown recluse.
Oh, jeez.
And I ended up in the ICU. And I ended up in the hospital for weeks and weeks and weeks. I almost lost my leg.
Jeez.
So,
shit.
But this, I know this is how bad. Like, I almost lost my life in the initial part of me, and I had to be ambulanced. So my blood pressure was like at 0, and it was horrendous. But anyhow, the gist of it is, once I got better, I wasn't 100% better because I couldn't walk for 9 months. So of course I couldn't work.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a 1-bedroom apartment, but I did have a little workstation desk thing. Mm-hmm. And all my modeling stuff and paints and stuff was all packed up in storage at that point. And I had somebody go down and bring it up for me, and that's when I found through Mike found you guys, and then I was like, and then I started watching Jason Jensen, and I'm like, oh my God, I gotta dive into this stuff.
Nice.
It was probably like 7 or 8 years ago.
Yeah.
Right.
About 8 years, I think.
Yeah, that's right around the time.
I mean, what else am I going to do? I couldn't walk, so I just sat there and learned how to model.
That's amazing. And that's like that. That's almost right around the same time that Jason started up his YouTube stuff, and we just had started our podcast, and like that was all pretty much right around that same time frame.
Yeah.
Yeah, in fact, the first Jason video that I can still remember watching was when he painted his clouds on the wall.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And that was how long ago that was.
Holy cow.
What's that?
I'm going to get to that point. We're going to talk about your clouds, because I was like knocked over the other day with your clouds. So we'll get to that. But yeah.
Oh, okay, thanks.
Now, Jason, you started. I know when you started really chiming in and being a part of on our Facebook page and such, and you just flew with us, and it was great to have a regular like yourself. I mean, there all the time, contributing and everything. And then we, of course, you had most of the guests we've had on the show. You're either familiar with or probably friends with us, just like we are with them. And
so that guy last week that lives in a coffee cup.
Yeah.
Yeah, James is quite a guy, man. Yeah. But I mean, so all those guys and that's cool. That's the cool thing about this community. I mean, as good as here's a guy like that makes Hollywood sets and modeling for that kind of one scale, right? But and he's got those kind of skills and talents and thoughts. And a guy like Jason and some of these others that we have on, Doug and everybody is, but they're all, Ron Kleiss and a million others. Everybody is that community where it doesn't matter if you're that guy or if you're guy on year one. Everybody is all friends, and they get along, and they help each other, and it's a community that doesn't have there's, I guess, somewhere, but there's not that snootiness, It's just I see it in model railroading. Don't get me wrong, I've seen the snootiness. Sure. We all have, but I've seen it. Okay, and I'm not saying that the community's like that. It's by far is not. Okay, right, but it's just so like people. But even in our fine skill modeling community we have, you don't see that. It's not the same. It's a different niche in this hobby where everybody works together, and I don't see anybody badmouth anybody or anything. It's not like that, And I think that's awesome. It's a whole different reflection to any hobby. You can take an example from what the fine skill modeling community has, But that's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I love, and going back to my dad, I learned so much about the patience of detail with his bird carvings. You may have seen pictures I posted on Facebook.
Yes, I did, actually.
But some of those, like he would make the regular gun decoys, for hunters.
Yeah.
That would actually float around and stuff. But then he would make other carvings that were birds completely. You wouldn't know it's not a real bird by looking at it.
Right.
He would carve every feather in every vein, and I would sit down there in his workshop for hours just talking to him and watching him work and just soaking in the attention to detail he put into stuff. So I think that's a big part of it too, and when you go into the guys like you were just mentioning, it's like everybody has that kind of mentality, it seems.
Yes.
Or at least most of them. And it's an art. Everything's an art. If you create, art.
You put that you put that his work on display for your family. It's not just your dad. It runs in your family because you put it on display at Messiah Village or the Messiah Village.
Different Messiah.
Over at Messiah College,
The people at Messiah Village aren't doing a whole lot of super fine craftsmanship yet.
You never know.
People live there.
You never know.
So,
but
maybe I'm wrong.
Let's talk about the Messiah College thing. You recently had put that display in at Messiah College, and I'm interested, A, to know how you got into that, and B, how that went. Like that was a pretty interesting thing.
Well, it's actually through the church that's attached to the college.
Oh, okay,
so
okay.
The college itself has their own art gallery.
Yeah.
But the church does as well.
Okay.
And that's a big church, that new one they built there.
Yeah, that's massive.
If you've seen it, it's huge. I mean, they have a lot of room in that place.
Oh, sure.
So, and every few months, they find people in their community or people through the college or whatever that have art in their family and local people.
Okay.
Right.
That are somehow affiliated with that. I mean, I grew up in the church, the original one up on campus, and I grew up at Messiah College.
Yeah.
And our whole family did. So we're just naturally known in the community. My dad's stuff, my sister's stuff. But they had asked, hey, you guys want to put something together and have it on display at the gallery for a few months? Right. And I was like, yeah, sure. Yeah. But most of it, 99% of it is my sister's, my father's, my grandmother's, my grandfather's works.
Oh, wow.
Different things.
Yeah.
And I couldn't kind of chunk out of my basement and bring it over there.
Yeah. So what did you?
Right.
So I just created a small diorama. I just took that, hey, this is what I do.
Yeah.
So I'm a very minor part of that whole thing.
Nice. So it's still cool that your family.
Doing a diorama is a fun thing to do, even just something small, and then just having it to look at for a while. We made some ourselves and stuck them into our layout.
Yeah.
But it's fun to do that, and then because it doesn't. It kind of forces you to have to do just a small section, but it's fulfilling because you can see the whole completed project in a short time. And I think that's awesome. But you did a great job on it too, by the way.
Thanks. Yeah, I used and I made the homage to the kit manufacturers that I used. I used 4 buildings. I think two from Doug, one of Ron's, my mount, one of Jason's.
Nice.
Yeah.
Or maybe
awesome.
it was. I forget now. Maybe it was 2 of Jason's and 1 of Doug's. I don't know.
Nice. Now, Matt, I got a non-modeling question to ask you about Grantham.
Okay.
Did you? I know the answer to this question, I'm sure, but I'm guessing you spent a lot of time at that creek down in the Old Breaches. I, as a child, or even in my teenage years, and then my dad can attest to this. I had kayak. My buddy and I would be down. My best man at my wedding, also in Grantham. We would spend an enormous amount of time at that creek in the summer. Like we'd be taking our kayaks out, especially as teenagers. We could just take our kayaks down, plunk them in the creek. But man, we'd be walking up and down that creek, all the way up up under 15 there where it goes over under the highway. All through there.
Almost.
Yeah, up near the dam, up by Williams Grove, like that in the summers, I still think about that. Like my best friend and I would be just plunking around in the creek for, hours down there.
I grew up there because there's a feeder creek to the Yellow Breeches.
Yep.
Called the Stony Run Creek.
Yep.
And that runs through my parents' property.
Oh wow.
And it ends up at the Yellow Breeches, right by the college.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I stomped all.
It cuts in right there. It cuts in right there above the mill, the old mill.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yep.
I used to live on Mill Road. Right down there. I used to live right in Mill Road, at the corner of Mill and Grantham Road, right down there in like the center of the whatever they call the center of Grantham, right there.
The town square of Grantham.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
oh wow.
Yeah, and I was a Boy Scout down there at the Boy Scout lodge there, right there by Grantham Pond.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up there. I mean, yeah, tubing in the creek, and my dad fly fished all up and down there all the time.
I fly fished there, not too.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, and then the college itself. In fact, when I got a little older and we got into hell raising days, the campus security was not very happy.
They were not your friend.
So,
I went to the show. That was the model show they had for that was PenCon, they call it, and it was.
Oh right. Yeah, I remember you talking about that.
And man, I was helping unload our club. There was ran the show, and we were unloading, helping the vendors unload all their stuff, and they had to pull up to the front and drop off at the to take it into the gymnasium and set it all up, their tables and everything else, and these security guards would come up and they were hounding these people to move their cars, and I was like, I had to go over and tell them, I was like, hey, easy, man. Well, they can't park here. They're going to block up the traffic. I said, it's 6 o'clock in the freaking morning, man. It's 6 in the morning. I said, the show doesn't even start for 3 freaking hours, And they calmed down a little bit. I said, they're going to pull in, they're going to move, but they're strict on that stuff down there. And I get it. They, in today's world, you're going to have to be, in a college campus area, you need to be,
you gotta be careful.
There's too many things that happen in this world anymore. They need to be careful.
Be cognizant and aware and careful. Yeah, sure.
Absolutely, I'm not knocking them. I just think they're tough. They're tough down there. Yeah. So,
I mean, I pretty much grew up there, but I went to Northern York School District because where our property was. It was almost on the Mechanicsburg School.
Yeah, that's a weird property line because I knew kids.
A lot of my friends went to Mechanicsburg, but I went to Northern.
Yeah, that's the way that works. Like a lot of kids I knew, especially once I was older, and you get out and around more. A lot of kids I knew on the northern side, but they're right across the creek, basically.
Yeah.
So. This is interesting. I wanted to just touch on that just because, we've never had a guest that is that local to us that, understands the bustling town of Grantham so well.
I'm a local yokel.
Yeah.
Let's get to your layout. So that layout, we watched you build it, basically. How long ago was it you started building the new layout?
I bought this house, it'll be 5 years this spring.
Okay.
Wow.
So probably within a few months of moving in, I actually started building the bench work and stuff.
Okay. So and now what size is it today?
Well, my basement is divided up into 4 rooms, and it's 3 of them are finished rooms and the other one's not. So the room that's not is where my workshop is, and that's where the slop sink and the furnace and all that stuff is.
Yeah.
And the other 3 rooms are devoted just for the layout. So, and it's
nice.
the whole basement's about I kind of guesstimated, but around 1,100 square feet.
Okay.
Wow.
So the first room that's basically completed is what is that? 12 by 15 or 13 by 15, somewhere in that neighborhood. The room next door to it, which I'm expanding into now, is the same size. And then there's another one that's a funky size. It's longer and narrower, and that hasn't even been
Everybody's got a size room somewhere for their layouts.
Yeah.
But so that's a good size layout, man. That's a lot of layout. So
well, the first room got completed quickly because I already had like a ton of structures built back when I was laid up with my spider stuff in the apartment.
Yeah.
I was building structures like crazy.
Yeah.
And I had just packed them away, knowing I was going to be able to use them at some point. And plus, I had other ones that I had built years ago and so all this stuff.
Right.
So when I got into it, really all I had to do was get bench work up, figure out where my track was going to go, and what the scenery elements I wanted to try to build into it. And I already had the structures. I could just, of course I built more and added to it, but
always building more.
So within maybe 2.5 years, it's pretty much at the state of where it is now.
Yeah.
So, but I can still go in and add more things to it, scenery-wise.
Yeah.
I have really no room for structures without chopping into it.
Your scenery work is your buildings are great too and awesome. I mean, very, very creative with your color schemes and everything. I loved all your work, but your scenery stuff too. Oh my word, you've really put into the scenery on it, and that's impressive. And now the scenery you use, you make any of your own from natural stuff, or do you use a certain brand in any particular type that you like? Or
I do like the land forming itself the old-fashioned way, with cardboard strips, weave together, and hot glued together and stapled together, whatever. As long as they're together and they look like the shape of what I'm trying to create, and then of course I cover that with like craft paper or even newspaper and some. So then do the what do you call it? The gauze, the plaster.
Plastic gauze.
Yeah, plaster cloth, and then pop that with Sculptamold.
Nice.
Oh yeah.
So that's how I just do the land itself. And by the way, speaking of, I even mentioned this on a video, I think. If you need plaster cloth, go on Amazon, and I can't remember the name of the company, but they sell the same stuff that Woodland Scenics does, and you get 4 rolls for the price of what one Woodland Scenics roll is.
Oh wow! I love that idea.
I just got 4 rolls for like $18.
Yeah, I was gonna say I just got on there real quick and looked it up. There's a 6-pack of plaster cloth. It just says for crafts, belly cast, bandage, whatever.
Right. Yeah.
It's 6 rolls for $16.99.
Oh, that's even cheaper than what I found.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I know this stuff is all made at the same darn factory.
Yeah. Right.
Oh yeah.
They put in a bag and put a Woodland Scenics logo on it and could sell it for 4 times as much.
Yep. Oh, yeah. And all hobbies like that. It's getting crazy with some of the
I'm
stuff
not knocking Woodland Scenics, though.
Oh yeah.
I'm not trying to knock them because they got to make they got a business to run.
And they have some other products
and they make
you just
great
can't
products. So
yeah. And there's some of the products that Woodland Scenic has that you're not finding anywhere else.
No.
Not to that. And every one of those companies has their niche. I mean, it's just they're Martin Wahlberg. He has his niche. His stuff's really nice. He's got some awesome looking stuff, and then he's got some stuff that to me seems really out of scale, very large. Compared, for you got to kind of his bushes down a little bit, but it's beautiful when you do it. It's absolutely beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's stuff that he doesn't carry that Woodland Scenics does or Scenic Express does, and but they all have little things that they use that they sell that you can get yourself somewhere. I'm not saying Woodland Scenics or any particular model company. I'm just saying they rebag it from somewhere else.
Yeah.
They do.
Well, and we've all been there. We've all been there where we get that stuff and we realize like, oh, I could get this at Hobby Lobby or whatever, and you're like, I'm getting this elsewhere. Yeah. But that's how those guys stay in business too. So like you gotta, we've all gotten those products where you're like, wait a second, this is just whatever. This is something else.
Right. Yep. Now
Yeah, so back to
that's
your
cool
original-
because
What's that, Matt?
No, I was going to say, back to your original question, I do use a lot of natural materials. So,
Yeah.
like dirt is real dirt.
Yeah, we do the same thing.
Falling down leaves or falling down leaves.
We do the same thing. My dad has collected a bunch of dirt, good fine sifted dirt, and so you don't get the big chunks in it. And then we actually have some tins of old leaves that you've put in the food processor and chopped them up smaller so that way they're to scale. But we've used a lot of that stuff where you just or like I have used before. I even have a bag of it now. I have a really pretty Japanese maple tree out in front of my yard, but Japanese maple trees get those really ornate.
I do as well.
They have those twisted little branches, and they get nice and brittle. But when you break them up into a smaller length, they look like they're perfect size for a nice little twisted like down tree.
Sure.
So those types of things, like you don't need to buy that. You can just go in your yard and pick it up.
Yeah. I mean, I use all that stuff. I scour every time I go out on a walk or something. I'll stuff something in my pocket.
Have you ever been somewhere? Have you ever been somewhere that you've been like out of town? And I've done this, and I think it's kind of fun. I took them off the old layout. I still have them saved in a box over here somewhere in one of my containers. But I'll get like a stone from somewhere or whatever. It doesn't matter where I am. It could be wherever. I was in that trip I was telling you before we started recording was down in Alabama where your buddy Mike and I went on a race, and they have the visitors center for that town, or the Chamber of Commerce for that town, gave us like a goodie bag of things from their town. And their one main economy down there is this huge granite mine. They have a huge, is it granite or marble?
You're telling the story.
It's marble. It's marble. I know. I had to think about it. It's marble. They have a giant marble mine. It's just pure white marble. So they gave us this little piece of white marble, and I've had it saved now for, I don't know, 8 years, 6 years. And I'm like, I'm putting that on the layout somewhere. I don't know where yet, but I am. So I have like this collection of things I'll just scour from all over the country when I travel, and I'll just bring them back and be like, I'm going to put this neat little whatever red rock I found somewhere in the layout, because then when I see it, I'm like, well, that's from when I was out in whatever state.
Yeah. Little piece of memorabilia stuffed into it.
Yeah, and no one knows what it is but me, and I'm like, well, I got that in Alabama, or I got that when I was out west, or wherever.
Yeah.
But it's cool to do that.
Yeah, I mean, stuff out in nature I do use a lot of stuff like that. Like the leaves you were saying, I take leaves, dry them out in a bag in my garage for like a year.
Oh, you have to.
Then I shove them into a blender, chop them all to a billion pieces, stems and everything.
Yeah.
I don't sit there and pick the stems up. Just chop it all up, and then I'll take that out of there and dump it into an old coffee grinder.
Oh, nice.
And that turns them right into an HO scale leaf.
Huh.
Oh yeah.
Dad, do you remember when?
Nice little leaf scatter. Pick it. You can pinch it like a pinch of salt and spread it right where you want, right out of your hand.
This is a funny story.
Exactly.
This is a funny story. My dad bought a. Remember when you bought those craft hole punches that were shaped like leaves?
I still have them, but they're for 130 scale.
I know. Oh no! You bought them before you started doing that, though. You bought them for our layout, and they were way too big.
Oh yeah.
I was like, Dad, that's cool and all, but like that is like.
I know what you mean. I saw somebody make lily pads out of that one time.
Yeah, Green Stuff World makes those things, and I bought one, and now I've got 3 of them. But then I started doing, military modeling as well. So it's kind of neat for when you're doing a diorama with that. But yeah, they are nice when you're looking at that scale, but. You try doing it with HO scale or N or no, definitely not N. But yeah, now I guess you're right. You could make lily pads out of them real easy.
Yeah, maybe dye them or something. I don't know. And glue them onto the top of the water. There you go.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. You can use leaves. I've used the actual leaf. I punched the small leaves from a leaf. you know.
Yeah.
So that way
Yeah.
I don't have to color it or anything else. And
It's all ready to go.
right, now the green ones, you kind of need to preserve it a little bit first. I haven't really tried that, and I don't know what you would do to chemically treat green leaf so you keep it green.
You
I mean,
can't.
there's got to be a way. There's got to be some kind of a home remedy thing. I'm sure there is.
You put them in
You
between
dip
wax
them in or
paper, like my old middle school leaf collection
yeah,
book.
that shit dries it. There's something that preserves the color on them. I read it once before. I don't know what it is.
Formaldehyde. Just dip them in formaldehyde.
But
Ooh, that'd be stinky.
Yeah.
so yeah, I mean your scenery work is insane. And recently, you did just this last week, or I guess it's been, you did the clouds. So tell us about that. Where did you learn to do that? Because they look awesome. I mean, not that, you have the talent, obviously. Did you watch like, is it like who's that Bob Ross? Was that like
Bob
a Bob
Ross,
Ross
yeah.
learning experience?
Yeah, you know what?
Doing the
It's kind of, it is. I have watched his stuff before, but it's been a long time. but some of the stuff that he teaches, I have retained somewhere in my memory banks. But well, first of all, I wanted to, in that room. My other room is a sunny, white cloud day. Which like 90% of modelers do that.
Yeah.
When they do a backdrop, they want a sunny blue sky and white clouds everywhere. Okay, so I did that, and it looks fine. But I think I want something different, so I'm just going to do a gloomy, overcast. It might rain in an hour.
Yeah, like March. It's like March in Pennsylvania.
Right. Exactly. So I spent a little time on the internet looking at pictures of clouds and just saving them to my phone and I, go outside myself on a gloomy day and looking at the clouds and how they look and just first of all get the mental picture of how I want things to look and then just use some of the techniques. I mean, I took a darker gray basically for the sky itself. Mm-hmm. So just brushed it on because I wanted streaks. Like the bristles in the brush will make through the paint will make streaky.
Sure.
It's not like you take a roller and you can do it with a roller too, but it would look too.
It's like flat.
Too flat.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would just be too flat, like no texture to the sky.
Right,
so
right.
I just used a big old paintbrush and then I took some lighter gray and kind of blended it. But I did wet on wet pretty much through the whole thing.
Yeah.
So I wanted a cloud, so I'm going to take a really light gray and just take an old beat-up brush and just stab the basic shape of a cloud, and then take another brush that's not quite like dry brushing, but somewhat.
Yeah.
Okay.
It had a little bit of paint on it, and it's still a wet brush, and just sweep it through it, and it just blends everything together. Take darker gray and put it under the bottom. Add a little white here and there and blend that in. And if you do a cloud like that, you can. And if it comes out crappy, it's no big deal. You just paint over it and redo it.
Yeah, like what's the worst that happens? You got a gallon of gray paint. You can just redo it.
Good point.
Yeah, exactly.
But
I ended up buying way more paint than I needed.
that always happens.
Now,
I've done that as well.
But now there's going to be a lot of water because there's a harbor,
Okay.
in the bay area, on the peninsula. So that water is going to have to reflect that gray sky.
Yeah, you can't have a bright water
I can't paint it blue I could make it polluted, I guess.
So what?
Green and nasty.
Yeah, it could look like Inner Harbor.
Yeah, it's going to have all this paint.
Now,
So
that's a new section coming, right?
Yeah, that's in my expansion area.
Okay.
That's what
You transition out of a rural, wooded, small town,
right?
Like over the mountain and down into essentially the coastline.
Right.
So
that's great.
Kind of what it is.
Now,
But on the water, man, I don't know how I'm going to do it yet exactly because that's a lot of water, and I'm not going to get into that that 2-part Envirotex resin stuff.
Not for something this size. I mean, wow.
Yeah, so I was watching, you familiar with Boomer Diorama?
Absolutely. Yes.
His YouTube, yeah, because he doesn't have anything to do with Oklahoma, you know. But,
Yeah.
but yeah,
he has awesome videos, man. That guy, I should get him on the show. But yeah,
that guy is flipping incredible. Like he's probably the best scenery artist in the hobby that I think I've ever seen. And I learned a lot from him. So I'm writing down a list of the products he uses. And when he did his, he has a bay or a river or something that comes in where he has a big boat on it. And it's a huge expanse of water that he did, and he did it with just paint and acrylics on top, different types, golden products. Like I think one's GAC 500, GAC 500, and it's all kind of man, and it looks actually pretty simple, theoretically at least. Well, he makes everything look easy, but So I'm looking at like I want to try that, and I'm going to practice first on like a scrap piece of wood or something.
Dave Ferry has some videos out where he does that as well. He just puts a bait right down on the flat level. He paints it all first with several different kind of those kind of paints, just from a like a Michael's different acrylic paints and blends them, and then there's a couple of videos out on them, and you can find them on YouTube somewhere. I'll when you're talking here, I'll look up the link and I'll tell everybody the channel. But it's and then he uses like a Mod Podge over top, or along that lines, and gets that. He doesn't do a 2-part epoxy. Because it just takes so much, but I mean that's just it, and it's beautiful work. I mean he does a great job, and we did the same on our layout as well with painting it. And Brett uses a Mod Podge when he makes the water basin.
I only use Mod Podge.
Yeah, I remember your guys' waterfall was on there. It was awesome.
Yeah, the waterfall. Yeah, now the waterfall I use.
Oh, was silicone one there?
That one has epoxy, and that's a story all its own. Because I was painting the waterfall down through, right? There's rocks and everything from the mill, and it comes to the point where it all pools at the bottom. So everything runs through, and it pulls at the bottom. And I'm like, oh, shit, that can't happen, because it's all wasted, and it's down at the bottom of this thing. So I had to build these little pools at each level and fill them, and then pull away the blockade. It was like a dam them. I had to dam them up at each level in between the rocks. And some leaked out through and everything else. It turned out beautiful. But the white cap part I used was actually a mixture of Liquitex basic acrylic. It's a gloss gel medium, comes in a tube. And I mixed that with Kathy Malott. You've heard, the Kathy stuff, right?
Right. I haven't heard from her in a long time.
She did a video on it, and I talked with her about that as well. And she had used that and Woodland Scenics Snow. It comes in the big giant shaker bottle, right?
Right. And the glitter to the water. Yeah.
Yeah. It creates that foam. So I mixed it with the gloss gel medium, and I spread it out at the caps and stuff and down through the waterfall. And when it dries, it gives it that white waterfall look, and it turned out amazing. I took that down to the college and put it on display, that whole unit with the waterfall. And I can't tell you how many people were just like, wow, that looks like real water, And
that's awesome.
It was just one of those, I never did it before, and you just you did all that work on those beautiful rocks all the way down through, and then you're like, I'm afraid to do this. I'm afraid I'm gonna goof this up really bad, and it's just one of those things that you did it and it just turned out, and you're like, oh, I must look like a genius, even though I don't know shit. But I look like right. It was one of those things, and I think you learn that through experimenting. I'm sure you've done it a lot with your scenery work, and you do a lot of scenery work, and you pick up on things that what'll look good after you start doing a little bit of here, a little bit there. You start gaining that knowledge to make it look better, So
yeah, I mean, I have it in my brain when I'm outside anywhere. Like even right across the street from me, there's a little wood lot. Man, I'll just walk by there and just look at it. I'm like layers upon layers upon layers upon layers, and colors upon colors the whole way through it. And that's kind of the mentality I try to keep in my head when I'm creating my own scenery.
Yeah.
It's just build up layers of everything.
Yeah.
You go out there and dig, I'm going to find leaves that have been down there for 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
Now your clouds you did, you have a video up on that, so anybody is going there to go to his YouTube page, and he has a video on painting the cloud backdrop, which is pretty cool too. You got to check that out for sure. And but yeah, that's on his My HSKO World of Model Railroading, and that on YouTube, and you do have a video on the clouds. So
yeah, just I think it was last week maybe.
Yep. Yep. This is just all awesome stuff. So I want you people to go and check that out, definitely, for sure.
Yeah,
so.
definitely.
I'm going to watch it again because we're going to be doing backdrop on our layout, and we'll have to have you down too.
Yeah, I was going to say we got to
close to being. We're going to get together with you. I mean, like really soon, if you're cool with that, and we're going to go hang out. We're going to get breakfast somewhere on the weekend and go just hang out and bullshit, and go to. Check out your layout. You come down to our place. We'll spend the day just having a good time, and I think that'd be cool.
Yeah,
really do.
Yeah, that's cool. And you work on the East Shore, correct?
I do work on the East Shore. I work down on Cameron Street right now. So, yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah. So if you, that's right. That's when you were putting on Facebook about the shootout with the cops and the tractor.
Oh my goodness! I heard it. It was. It was a mess. I heard a million sirens. That was one special day, man. So, yeah.
But I was saying, like, if you're on your way home, maybe you stop because I live on the West Shore, so I'm like on your way almost. Live right by, not far from the Capital City Mall. So,
oh, okay. Well, that's great. We're right down the road.
If you got nothing going on right after work and you want to swing by and I'm home, I don't care.
Yeah, well, and I'm working over off Utley Drive there by BJ's now. So I'm like right by you.
You're what?
I said I'm working over by BJ's.
Oh, you're working over there. I thought you said you were living over there.
No.
You're out in like Newville.
We're out, we're way out in the middle of nowhere. But like my dad said, we can always schedule
on a weekend to be awesome. Just kind of all meet up and have a good day on a weekend. And if you're available on weekends.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. I'm a single guy. It's just me and my cat. So.
What's one of the cool things about this is you and I and Brett, we all shop, and there's others that we shop at the same places for our stuff, for our craft supplies. I go to Michael's, I go there by the mall, I go to the Hobby Lobby on the Pike, and if they don't have it, I go to the Hobby Lobby on the East Shore. And then of course, have you been to Mainline Hobbies? I'm sure you have.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Mainline. And don't get me wrong, Tommy's is good too. And I'm
going there on Saturday actually.
Nice.
I got to go see Tommy on Saturday.
Yeah. Tommy's a good guy. He'll stand there. He'll talk your ear off all day long. And I have a locomotive in there for repair, and he can't fix it, so I got to go pick it up. I spent a lot of time at Gettysburg, so.
Nice.
Oh yeah, well us too. So, but I didn't know that you're a Civil War fanatic too.
Massively.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
So that's another thing to hang out and do.
My dad was a history teacher,
Oh.
and it was he eventually took a job in state government.
Huh?
But he was extremely knowledgeable, all things history. I mean, even your ancient European history, the entire way through American history. Everything.
Awesome.
And that I learned a lot just from and getting interested in history through him. Of course, I learned a lot from my dad. I guess when I really think about it.
Mm-hmm.
But we used to give tours on the battlefield down there, private tours.
Yeah.
And my dad would get 20 people together, and then me and him. I used to know every single rock, bush, and tree on that battlefield. I know the whole sequence of battle, where specific companies and regiments and so forth were positioned, and
well, we had to go hang
we used to
out
give
then.
tours, and he was so good at these tours, and like park rangers would stop and listen to him.
Oh my.
And then he'd start with a group of 20, and we walk to a different location. You look behind, there's like 50 people following.
Oh my gosh, we've done that.
Yeah.
We've done that. It's funny that you mentioned that. Oh, we did the reenacting. Okay, but we had a bunch of hardcore reenactor guys, and Brett can attest he was along on these.
Yep.
We would do what we call a battle walk, and I would call we call the guys to get 15 guys or whatever, and we dress as like the 27th Indiana or the 10th Louisiana.
Yeah, we had enough variation in our kits we had that we could throw together any company.
Yeah. These guys were hardcore guys. They weren't normal reenactors. These guys were guys that worked for Park Services, or they were interns with the Park Service, or they worked for other battlefield societies in the Shenandoah. And we get them all together, and we would all go out, and I would put together the basic path that they took through Gettysburg, that particular unit. And we'd start at the starting point where it started on either day 1 or 2 or 3 even. Mm-hmm. And we would go and walk their steps. Okay. And I would narrate at each step, okay, to my guys. Okay. And then as we got to a point where we'd stop and take a breather, whatever, I'd stand there and I'd talk and I'd read from my notes I had in my pocket or in my haversack. And then the Park Service guys knew we'd be out there on Saturdays or whatever, on Saturday or Sunday. And they got to, we got to know some of the park guys. And they would have their car tours stop there and have them get out and talk to us, which was
cool,
awesome. Yeah. I did one on the 42nd Mississippi and the Davis Bridge on day 1. And we did a walkthrough on that. We didn't have any Park Service guys come up. But we stopped at the edge of the road there where the railroad cut is, and I was talking to my guys, and the cars started stopping, okay? And they were parking all over the road. In fact, they were parking in the middle of the road because there was no place to park, and all these people were getting out, and they were listening to my speech about the 42nd, and because I'd done a lot of research on that particular unit and the Davis Brigade, and I did some stuff that I've given to the park, in fact, to use for their records, and that I've researched. And but anyhow, I was reading some of this information, and a lot of it was stats and numbers and things that happened. But they stopped and they were standing. I had this huge crowd of people. Brett was there. You were there, right? For that?
Yeah. Yep.
Brett?
Yeah. It was you, me, Ryan, and Adam.
Love that kind of stuff. I miss it in a way, but. Yeah, now I just like to go down and hang out, walk around the battlefield, and anytime you're into that.
Yeah, I got to go down and see Tommy, so I figured, I'm just going to take a hike. I think I'll go up the backside of Culp's Hill. That's a hike.
Oh yeah, that's a good.
Yeah, so I'll do that on Saturday. It's supposed to be like 80 degrees. It'll be nice.
Yeah, it'll be real nice.
Yeah.
The other cool thing about what my dad was saying was, and he kind of underplayed it, was a lot of the guys that were in our reenacting group also were very
material culture.
No, they were very history educated. That's a terrible way to write. That's a terrible way to explain that. But they were history educated. No, they were they were very well versed and very well researched in history, and a couple of them actually worked for National Park Service previously. So like it wasn't like the guides, and some of the guides that were at Gettysburg when we were out there knew a few of the guys in our group. So when they'd see us, they'd be like, "Oh man, these guys like they know their stuff. Like they're not just out there schlepping around. Like we are very well researched in our history in it too. So it's not like they were stopping their tour and like, oh, look at these reenactors over here. They were actually like, no, we know a couple of those guys, and they've thoroughly researched what they're talking about today."
And so when a present-day tourist approaches them, they instantly go into their role.
Yeah.
Right.
And what,
I mean, you're not going to hear them see them on their cell phone or anything.
Right.
No, we didn't have that. We didn't. Those guys didn't break that out.
No, we kept it all away. In fact, we were so into it, Matt, that one summer I broke my foot and I refused to not be at events. So I went and found a pair of period correct. I bought a pair of period correct crutches, which were the most painful thing in my life. Probably more painful than my broken foot was hobbling around on these busted ass 100-year-old crutches. And we were doing the PA 151st up there at the
Daniel 80 Farm.
Yeah. And there I was hobbling around with my broken foot, and I wrapped it in a bandage that was like cracked. I didn't have it in my boot, and I was there doing it, and it was just funny. So I put myself in the mindset of like, well, I'm gonna suffer because this is what our role is, and it was just funny.
You were wounded on the first day.
Yeah, and then I got to ride around in the car. All those guys did a force march for like 6 miles, and there I was in a car behind them, giving them water.
Ended up at the
Seminary Ridge.
College.
Yeah. At
Seminary College, behind there doing the recreation of the barricade, and Ed Bears was R.I.P. great guy. He was there to narrate while we were doing it, and you're familiar with Ed, right? And yeah, and he was there to narrate. It was a huge event. The Park Service was behind it, and the college, and we had maybe 200 different reenactors. They were all of that caliber, of that hardcore, and they normally don't do recreations on the battlefield, so they didn't want us taking nobody was taking hits. You didn't go drop. It was just out of honor of the soldiers and sacred ground. You just didn't take hits. We fired a couple fires, volleyed back and forth, and then it ended. But that was so cool. Brett we're all fighting, and Brett's there doing his
hobbling
on crutches and amongst us. It was fun. But like I said, we had one guy in our group. He was a superintendent for the superintendent of the National Park Service at Antietam, and people all know our group. So so it was that's the kind of level we had. So it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I love history, man, and that interest runs through my family too. I mean, my cousins were they lived in Williamsburg, Colonial Williamsburg, and my cousin that's closest to my age, he was Thomas Jefferson for years, and his dad, spitting image of Ben Franklin.
Man.
And
that would be cool. I love that.
Was a seamstress, but yeah, I mean they lived that stuff. That's what they did. Yeah. He was in. My cousin was in the History Channel documentary of Thomas Jefferson.
Yeah.
Where they made a documentary of where he was a younger, like college student age, the whole way till his death. So they had to keep changing his makeup and get him older and older and older and older. But yeah. I mean that stuff. Our whole family loves it.
Yeah, well, we got to meet up for a Gettysburg Day, I guess, too. I'm up for that anytime.
Now, the fine scale miniature thing, okay, the fine scale model railroading that we do, I wonder how many others. I've always thought about this. I don't want to join some kind of a club. And don't get me wrong, I'm not against them. I just don't want to belong to a model railroad club. Okay, and I'm all for it. Okay? If that's your thing, that's your thing. I'm not knocking it. I'm not against it. Okay, but I wouldn't mind hanging out with some guys in this area that do what we do. So if you're in the central PA area and you're interested in maybe all getting together, like maybe every 2 months or so, and we all go out and have breakfast together and hang out and go, somewhere in central PA, and then just kind of hang out and shoot the shit about modeling and whatnot, share a couple stories, maybe visit one of the other person's layouts just for fun, get a handful of guys that just meet regularly, hit us up and let us know who you are, what you're about. I'd be into that. I don't know how you would feel about
cool.
that.
I mean, you can even go down to like northern Maryland. I know like Greg Cassidy lives down there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds that far.
That's not very far at all.
It's the central PA, mid-Atlantic, that area. So I'm all about that. And so, if anybody is, pipe up, send us a private message on our Facebook and let us know. And we'll try and make something happen. I think that'd be cool. What do you think, Brett?
I'm always down for that. As long as my kid's sports schedule is accommodating, I'm in.
Yeah, sure, of course. But so that's just I kind of want to enjoy the flavor of this hobby within our community as well as out of the community like we do now. So, but yeah,
sounds awesome.
Yeah. What's that?
I just want to pay dues, man.
I know.
I don't want to pay dues and buy shit for other people's layout. That it resides somewhere that's not mine.
I just want to go to a diner and hang out, have some coffee and some good breakfast, and then we go do something else that morning. Go check out someone's work or whatever. Yeah. I'm always down for some diner and hanging out.
Like Harrisburg Railroad Station or somewhere. I mean, there's a lot of railroad history in this area. So,
yeah.
I don't know too many people in this area that are into the hobby like that, other than you guys. I mean, I know a couple of the guys at the Keystone Model Railroad Club there in Mechanicsburg, and
they're welcome
I know. So I know some people in the
club.
Is that the one that's over there by the Rudders?
It's right on Trindle Road.
Yeah. It's an old.
It's like an old train station. They have a beautiful layout.
I drive by that on my way home.
If you ever get a chance, check it out.
I drive by that on my way home, and I gotta catch their schedule because they'll hang that banner out that says like open house these dates, and I never write it down, and because I'm always driving, I always forget to put it down somewhere, and then I gotta find their schedule somewhere. So hopefully it's online or on their Facebook.
Yeah, it's amazing. They have a loft up there that overlooks the entire layout, and it's set up like an interlocking station with the levers and the lights and the signals and all that stuff. Oh my god, stuff!
That's so cool.
Those guys pulled off in there. Beyond me, some of that stuff, but it's cool.
I'm gonna have to find their schedule and go check it out.
So what's up next what's your next project for your video, your new video channel?
Well, I'm working with Sculpt-A-Mold, so it's going to be about Sculpt-A-Mold, I think.
Nice.
Now, here's a good question I got for you. How do you buy your Sculpt-A-Mold? They never have it at the store when I go there.
I usually just get it off Amazon, but once in a while, if I go into Michael's, once in a while, there's one bag laying there. If there is, I'll grab it.
Yeah, you're right.
But yeah, for most times, get it off Amazon. Hobby Lobby, I can't seem to find it in there either. So.
But you ever buy their plaster in there? The regular plaster? They sell.
I buy a plaster of Paris.
Yeah, I've been buying this other stuff. It comes in a blue bag. Let me grab it here. And I used to buy that plaster of Paris stuff in the carton. It's like a milk carton, and that stuff is like it's ridiculously priced for what you get out of it. This stuff here is perfect plaster. I get it at Hobby Lobby, so if anybody's listening, I've had great luck with it. It really hardens well. This one here is for pottery and ceramics. They have several different kinds. It is a total of 8 pounds, okay, for $8. So it's $1 a pound. And I'm like, wow. it's a really, really good price for what you're getting out of it, and it really sets up nice. So, and it dries quick. So,
Yeah, I got a 4-pound bucket of plaster of Paris from Michael's for like $5, but that was with a coupon.
yeah. Love the coupons.
Gotta have that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Knocked them.
Yeah, plus I can get my senior discount too. So
That's
I
why.
love my senior discount.
That's why I make my dad buy the sculpt mold.
yeah, it's going to be just kind of a basic video about Sculpt-A-Mold because that's really the next project I have to get into on this layout. And I have so many buildings I have to build. I mean, and I'm not one that buys like 50 kits and have them sitting on the shelf forever. You know, I see a kit and I want it and I know where I can put it, then I'll buy it and then build it. So I have one Bar Mills kit sitting here ready to be built that I'm going to add to it. What the heck's the name of that? It's one of their older ones. Majestic Hardware.
Ooh, yeah, that's a nice
You
kit.
remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a beautiful looking kit. So that's going to be next to be built. But I'm going to need so much. And there's one corner where it's elevated, and that's where like a downtown area is.
Okay.
And have to get buildings built and put up in there and figure out where roads are and stuff and get that pretty much scenic and done because it's in an area where I can't work in front of it. You know, I have to get that done first. Or I'll end up damaging stuff, knowing me. So
I damage everything. I do everything around our layout and on our layout.
Everything he touches, he breaks it.
I'm like a tornado man. So I'm the clumsiest son of a bitch in the world when it comes to working on stuff.
Yeah, if it's air, it's gonna break.
I don't plan this stuff out. This is all done out of my head. In fact, I don't go online and figure out a track plan that fits the room and then build everything and download software to plan. No, I figure out where my bench work is first.
Right.
Where's the bench work? How much room do I have? Do I have room to walk around it? Am I going to crash into something? I got to make sure the bench work is right, and then I can figure out kind of like where track it is going to be.
Yeah, and
I get that of it. And the philosophy is a lot like Jason's, where I'm not interested in too much. It's cool, but I'm not a big guy into all the operations and all the prototypical railroad running and so forth. I mean, if I have the train run around while I'm working on stuff, that's cool. But I want to be able to, watch my trains go through realistic scenery and through past buildings. And I mean, I don't mind stopping and switching off a car or two in a business. I have a huge peninsula. I could put an entire freight yard in it. But all there is one siding that comes into a fish cannery. That's it.
That's what ours does.
yeah, it's pretty much exactly like ours. Yeah.
We put the ice work up and then we just plop track down. It's one big giant monster loop thing that goes through. So, well, it's not a loop per se. Well,
It technically is. It's like it's a big loop. So.
And then it's all it does. And there's not a lot to it. There's like a couple switches, and that's it. And we're good with that.
Yeah.
It's less to maintain. So.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, there's that too. My wiring is so simplistic. Like an 8-year-old with knowledge of what's positive and negative on a wire could wire my layout.
Yep.
That's how simplistic it is, and it's
ours feels
DCC,
that way too.
which makes it even easier because the old DC systems can be just a wiring nightmare. And that's one thing I don't like doing is being underneath my layout, clamping wires together.
Yeah, no one wants to do that.
Underneath that shit, man. It's hard on my back and my knees. Ugh.
I'm not even older, and I don't want to do that.
Yeah, and then I look like somebody will show on Facebook or something like the underside of their layout with their wires, everything labeled and cabled and run beautifully. They know where everything is going, and it's an art in itself. I'm like, oh my God, no, that's not me.
I'm impressed, but that's not happening.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my!
Well, it's been great to be on. But we'd like to get together and have a good time.
Yeah,
We're gonna
definitely.
make that happen. said
That'd
anybody
be
else
awesome.
that's interested in that kind of thing as well, let us know. But yeah, it's so great to have somebody we know from the Harrisburg area and this this region, and that's into it like we are, and we appreciate you being here and being on the show today too, man. So.
Yeah, appreciate having you guys on my phone. That was awesome.
Yeah, and like my
Appreciate the invite.
dad said, well, sometime here, we'll have you come down and check out our mess of a work so far. But at least it'd be
Oh,
cool
I'd
to
love
just
see that.
come down and hang
I
out.
want to see. I want to see your dad's freaking airline cockpit of a workbench.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a else, man. I mean, it's it's really not all everybody thinks. It's just like one wall full of paint, you know.
It's yeah, you're underselling it, but it's a 360 workbench there.
It is. It is kind of like a cockpit when you think about it. But yeah, it's fun. It's my place to go and do my thing.
Yeah.
Know, so. But yeah. I don't have the room for a layout, so this is awesome for me, and Brett. That's why I go and help Brett with building the one we have there, and I like to build it here and then take it down there. It's like having grandkids, and you get to hang out, watch them, and hang out with them, and keep them overnight or whatever, and then
they're gone
home. It's like I can build my buildings, which will be my children, and I'll take them down there and give them to my son. And there you go.
Yeah, perfect.
Well, no, it's so cool to be able to share that, So for us, it's like that. But
yeah.
So right now I'm building the Echo Point Lighthouse. Last night I started. That's my Mount Models. And so I started building that, and it's a lot of fun. It's a cool kit. So I want anybody out there that's interested in a cool lighthouse, this is a nice little kit. It's not overly expensive. It's a good price point, and it's a nice kit. So
I remember seeing that, and I'd like to have it, but I already have a lighthouse. So, and in fact, it's actually the Walters one. I think it's called Rocky Point Lighthouse or something.
Yeah, I know that. That's a great one.
I completely. It's this. I don't know the structure of it, and it's just awesome. It's perfect, So I mean, I spent a lot of time trying to make that thing look real. Yeah. Taking plastic, it's not my favorite medium at all to work in, but it's a necessity sometimes. And I already had the dumb thing, so I'm like, I'm gonna make this.
It's fun. I'm having fun with it. I used to despise plastic. How about it, Brett?
Yeah.
I used to complain about plastic all the time. Now I've been kind of mixing it up, and like you said, it's a necessary evil. You almost have to have some because you need that brick structure stuff in there.
Right. And if you're just building it like a small diorama, I mean, you probably don't need any plastic stuff, but you got layouts of my size or somebody else's. You got to, or else you'd be 90 years old by the time you finish building structures.
No kidding you. Yeah. So I've been having fun doing it and trying to make them look realistic, make them look less plastic. Jason Jensen has done a bunch that way. Yeah, and same. And like you said, you do them right, and you can make them look like like really nice supermodels. So it's a good time. But thank God I got that freaking.
Yeah, and that train station looks awesome. So kudos to you on that one.
Brett came over the other day, picked it up. I said, "You got to come down. You got to pick us up.
Now it's my problem.
Work done." I can't do no other work because it takes my. It was 40 inches long. I'm not even sure how it's going to fit in our layout. It's going to have to fit somewhere.
It's just sitting there now, just awkwardly waiting for work, waiting for it.
Well, we have a place for it. Where we're doing it, but yeah. But it took the whole workbench up, and it's like I just want to do some other stuff, I just want to do some other stuff, but I was afraid to move it and have it break. It's already been in 4 pieces. So, but
that way, if it breaks, Brett can fix it.
Yeah, now it's my problem. Yeah. If it breaks, it's my fault too. So I got to be careful with it. But yeah.
All right. We didn't want to take up your whole evening, but we were glad to have you on, and we look forward to
Anytime.
catching up with you.
Definitely. Well, yeah, thanks again.
Yes, sir. Thanks for having me on. It was an honor and a privilege.
Yeah.
Ours too.
Be on with the great Wileys.